Good evening, everybody. I call the Planning Commission meeting to order. It's Monday, April 3rd at 6 o'clock. Do roll call. Steve?
Here.
Dave?
Here.
Kate?
Here.
We're missing a couple, but I know Rick is excused.
Josh, Ron, or John and Rick, right?
John, Rick, and
Josh.
Josh. We have quorum, though. Am I correct? 4 out of 7?
Depends on if you count the mayor as a,
I'm a voting member on the Planning Commission.
yes.
He can say
I
his
just want to
thing.
make sure.
Okay. Next meeting on the agenda is approve Planning Commission minutes for March 3rd.
Motion to approve the April 3rd Planning Commission meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next item on the agenda is concept plan review for proposed mixed-use development on lots 11 and 12, 13 of downtown waterfront assessors plat.
We're doing the site plan review for 1003. Correct.
What's that?
Yep.
I think you might have said it different.
I got the wrong
Yeah,
minutes.
but that is okay. We can begin with
That's
the
what I
site
got in
plan
my
review.
packet, though.
You got last month's? She's there for now.
All right, sorry. Let me correct that. Site plan review for 1003 Campbell Street.
All right. So, yeah, if you remember back at the December 5th meeting, the concept plan for the project at 1003 Campbell Street was approved then. And you can see the project, or the concept plan on the right there. Jumping into the components of the submitted site plans, the landscaping plan, we currently don't have any landscaping requirements, but our code states that a landscaping plan has to be submitted. So this is the landscaping sheet that was submitted. It just shows the green space in accordance to, the lot and where the impervious surface will be on the lot as well. For architecture, the addition on the back end is proposed to be a steel siding material, and you can see a sample of it down here below. It is proposed to be 30 feet in height, and that would be 13 feet above the existing structure. As an option, the Planning Commission can weigh this if they would like to do it or not, but to match the character of the recent developments such as Quick Trip and Bodie, potential additional architectural components could be required, such as, I don't know if this is very viewable, but the existing rustic wood facade, or maybe a brick or concrete or faux rock facade as well. Utilities. Utilities will be accessed from the rear of the property. Again, don't know if you can see it very well, but there is sanitary and water mains running up the rear of the property, and the laterals come up from there. And there's a fire hydrant currently on the corner of Henry and Campbell Street there across Campbell Street from the site. Stormwater management. The project has an approximate 3% increase in impervious surface, and that the site has proposed drainage to the west into the proposed retention pond behind what is currently being constructed as the storage units at 1045 Warren Road. There is a slight increase in impervious surface, like I said. Our engineer, Greg Adams, did mention that the added discontinuity of existing pavement will help that, the runoff, so it is expected not to create any adverse effects for stormwater runoff. And since the disturbed area is less than 1 acre in total size, we would not require a stormwater management plan per our ordinance. For outdoor lighting and signage, the developer would have to comply with the city ordinances on both. All external lighting must meet the city ordinance code 635-56, and for signage, they would have to meet the city zoning code 635-63, and the site plan review process does not include any sign permitting processes, so they would have to apply for that separately. And then for parking, the concept plan that was approved back in December was approved displaying 21 spaces. So the site plan is only required to have 21 spaces as well. The site displays one designated handicap space, one compact space, and that is because there is a service door on the north side of the existing building, and it swings outward. So to be able to move in and out from that door, this space here had to be designated as compact. And then there are 19 standard automobile spaces, so that gives us a total of 21. The parking lot will include a 4-inch high surmountable curb, and that is just to preserve the green space. People don't try to drive over it and degrade it over time. And the surmountable curb will also help for ease of snow plowing in the winter. As a condition of approval, since the drive lane is not of the correct width for two ways of traffic, there will have to be directional signage directing patrons from the parking lot to public street and designating the entrances and exits. Any questions or comments on it? Some planning commission options: approval, recommend changes, or denial. And if approved, this will be forwarded to council on May 8th, next week.
Being a building inspector, my one concern would be, if you're gonna build over the existing lateral coming in from the back of the building, they will need a clean out within 5 foot, inside or outside that new portion of the building. So a clean out is just something so they can, it's a plumbing code, so once you put a building over it, 5 foot inside or out, you need a clean out.
Okay.
And so once they add on, they'll probably eliminate, or they'll lose that clean out 5 foot radius to the edge of the building. And then number two, I guess, as you spoke, I would, and I don't know about the rest of the commission members, I'd like their thoughts. The facade, at least any portion of that building facing Campbell Street should match the existing facade facing Campbell.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I think about facing north, because you got the neighbors there, but it's a parking lot. Are we concerned so much about that? I guess I'm not as shook up about that. So
What
that's,
do you mean, you just want it to look the same as it is now?
right, so, the building is supposed to go up above the existing, so I want that gable end of that building to match the rest of the building.
It's facing here on
Oh,
Campbell
so
Street.
it's not like a, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like, well, here's Tom Thumb, the wood look or the brick look, and then you got a big pole building sticking up the back. I'd like that to kind of match.
Gotcha.
Now, the side of the building, if we let them do the tin, I guess I don't get real shook up about the back side maybe. Because the back side is facing storage, so it's not like you're gonna hurt somebody's feelings back there.
Well, can they change the whole front to look like tin, or are they keeping the front?
Well, I'd like to, do we want to be Tin City, or do we want our city to, to present something kind of nice? We got enough tin buildings. Now, that's kind of what I look at.
Yeah.
And that's our job, is do we want the city to, give it, if they do it and everybody else says, well, yeah, it's kind of nice to have a brick front or something other than a whole building.
I'll save my snarky comments. I'll save some snarky comments.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can sing them at me later. That's just my thought. And I don't know if anybody else has thoughts or opinions on it, so.
As far as that building code thing you'd mentioned, Dave, that's something when they go through that process, they're gonna catch all that stuff, right?
If it goes to the state, it might not, because what it is it's a plumbing code, and if they don't add more than 16 fixtures of plumbing to the building, they don't need state plan review. And so they might not have to put any more plumbing, they might have enough bathrooms, so it's just, we're gonna add a building. I guess they'll add a sink, but they still won't have everyone looking at it saying, oh, we gotta make sure we have that. Because usually most of them go out the front, so a lot of people wouldn't think about it, but since he mentioned it, and I'm a building inspector,
Yeah.
I'd just say, to meet code, they should probably do that. So while they're excavating the footing, more likely they can go down and find out where that sewer is, tap into it, and then just bring a clean out up. Rather than the footing. It's just my thought. And the facade thing, again, I don't know if anybody else has a thought on the facade, but
I was gonna ask about the back, if it's gonna be just, the back of the building is just gonna be straight tin, 30 feet tall, because there is a residential section that'll be sharing this backyard. I'd wondered if there should be some consideration given to them, that it's not 30 feet of tin, it's a big structure.
And so here's in that landscaping plan, if we let them do 10, then it's like, okay, you're gonna plant some type of shrubs and or trees that might at least break up that tin look from the residential side.
Which 30 feet's pretty tall, yeah.
Yeah, but that neighborhood, they might see it, but that'd be something to break it up. So I that's one of my thoughts. I know there's residential on the one side, straight back I think is the storage buildings. But yes,
That's what
you're
I was
right.
gonna say, did we do that for the storage buildings? I can't remember.
What did we do along the highway? They did pull, just standard
glass
10.
incorporated, large sections of glass incorporated into the front of their building.
That back row had pines and a water holding pond and pine tree
And the
row,
storage
right?
units, yeah.
right.
So we did something like that.
Right.
The glass probably, but maybe we should have said, we'd like to have a little more of a, at least some brick columns, we'll let you put a little tin, but mix it up, and we didn't, and I think.
I'm not sure if because that front building is a all-season storage building, so it's heated, climate controlled.
Right.
I don't believe that front building is tin, but the buildings behind it are
Right.
tin.
Okay, so that's just something we should try to prevent in the future. We have that options now, if it is. So I say that at least what faces Campbell Street should match now.
Can we ask, are you matching it? Or do you have a plan for that front yet?
Well, the front, I
Yep.
can
Could
go.
you- Yes,
Up to the podium, please.
Your mom wants to see you on TV.
Tell us who you are and
Sorry, Jay Welter. Yeah, so I'm one of the partners in the building ownership. Kind of stepping in our main partners on a business trip, but
No?
to the best of my knowledge, it's all planning on that as the exterior for that new building.
How about windows and penetrations in the back, things to break it up, or is it just flat across the
I
back?
just flat because I don't think the renter really wants that there. It's going to be interior.
This is a
display
big storage
space.
building.
Yeah, it's retail
Yeah.
space and retail fixtures on the walls.
And just because they haven't planned it doesn't mean we can't require it, is what I would tell you. It might be a little more expense, might not, I don't know. John?
I agree with you on the facing Campbell Street. I'd like to see something congruent with the existing.
Yeah, anything that sticks up and can see
And
from.
anything that can be seen from Campbell Street, I think, yeah, that's what I would. I'm not as concerned about the
Are you-
the other sides.
You guys thinking that it should be logs to bottom to top, or just a color complementary to the front?
I just,
I guess I can't right now picture the front,
Right.
so I
It's
Can you
like
can't.
a
blow,
log.
you can't blow that up at all, can you? Because
Yeah,
that brick, or is
it's
that
like a-
just wood on the front, right?
Yeah, it's
Horizontal?
like log cabin siding.
so wait, are you leaving,
Horizontal.
you're leaving this front part and you're just building
Yep.
up the back?
Right. That's why I say that.
I think it was color coded to match the rest of it. I'd be fine with that.
I think I agree.
Color coded though, could be tin with the same brown, dark brown.
So like this is facing Campbell Street.
Where's the sign going to go on the building? Are you going to utilize the peak of the rear structure as your
And this
location
I
for your
don't believe
signage?
so. I kind
This is
of
behind this.
leaving that so however ACE would
Yeah.
want to do it within, getting their approval.
Yeah, you're just curious.
I
if
don't
that would
I
break
wouldn't
it up,
anticipate
maybe.
a sign on that peak though.
Yeah.
Again, it's behind.
He's thinking he might try to catch the highway, but I wonder if
This
that
piece
storage
this
building
way.
would block it at that point.
Yeah.
So that,
Well, I was talking about the front here, because it'd be
Oh.
quite a bit higher than the
This is the
structure.
parking
So
lot.
Yeah.
if you put a sign up there, it would break up the
That says
color
that's
and
existing.
Yep.
if they did all.
I imagine they would have a storefront sign to
Right.
some extent.
yep,
I suppose they could do a pole sign too, depending.
I mean, I feel like it should be pleasing to the eye, but I don't feel like we should say, well, you have to do logs, or you have to do X, Y, and Z.
that is our job, just so
I
you
know that, but
Well, then
I-
I'm just saying that.
I'm just saying congruent with the
what it's got
whatever
now.
else is facing Campbell Street. What is that existing building up near the street there?
That's actually just
Carter.
the sign?
There's a sign up by the street that's going to be removed as per the site plan.
And that's what this existing building is on page, not numbered, but.
Well, I mean, could you leave the logs and stuff in the front?
Well, that's the plan.
Oh, it is,
Yeah.
okay.
We're just talking about the new structure.
That peak up there, how about the
Yeah,
peak to kind of
what you
match?
see in the
Correct.
picture there, John, is gonna stay, and they're gonna they're actually gonna take, there's a structure behind that building you can't see, they're gonna take off, they're gonna put a giant one behind it.
Got it.
That's gonna look like.
So
that
this
top.
bottom left picture we're looking at, is that existing? Or is
The
that
lower
both?
portion's all existing.
So,
There's a box.
so this would be the new portion,
Yeah.
this is the existing town, and that's what's gonna stick up and be seen from, I'm assuming that's right?
Yes.
Why doesn't that building have a roof?
So then, this roof, that new roof line will go like this on the existing building.
Yep.
So the existing building is a flat roof, and then the addition will be a gabled.
I mean, it doesn't look like a flat roof though, because
I'm-
it's got those peaks.
I'm confused. Okay, so it's got that peak by the entrance.
Right, they're just,
But otherwise it's flat.
Behind that, it's
Flat.
flat. Okay.
but you will get a peak now behind them with the addition.
Right.
And that's why I think it should somewhat match the front of the
Yep,
building.
I agree with that.
It shouldn't be gray for sure. Would I
Yeah,
allow
I
brown?
get it. Yeah.
I'd like the whole facade to look the same, but that's
Yeah.
I'm just one person.
It's possible, I mean, the colors are, you know, I mean, we can change colors, I think, pretty easily.
So the question is, do we allow them to still put tin up there, but at least the color should match the front of the building? Or do you want them to still have the log look where it's horizontal lines?
I'm good with the tin matching. with
You guys are easy.
I'm good with the tin matching too. I feel like it's.
I'm the drink of the crowd, that's all right.
One, I think it'll actually look better versus one giant log cabin sitting there in a town that doesn't have any of that, you know, so
Fair.
it'll kind of mix it, as long as it's color complementary, it'll look good amongst itself.
I'm not saying I'm right, I'm just saying I don't agree with you guys.
It's good conversation. I got worried about the
They
back.
have to do all the time.
Yeah. I think the back of that new addition is gonna be massive, and a lot of that,
Yeah.
you know, and that's concerning, because there's a whole row of houses back there.
Be up here and talk. The other thing you could do is tell me on a couple of different colors at the back, you know, give it a breakup of some, instead of all gray.
I think there should be consideration.
If you're not the neighbor looking there, you probably don't care, but be the neighbor back there that sees that building. Go ahead, Louis.
I'm Louis Filkins, Ogden Engineering. We helped prepare the site plan, did surveying out here. If you look in that lower right corner, you'll see there's 2 deciduous trees. They show up on the site plan too, on page 2. The trees in the back are 11-inch, 15-inch diameter, and then there's 5 evergreen trees back there as well. So I just want to make you aware that those trees will remain. And then, Matt, could you go to that site, or that concept by chance, or
I should be right here.
you can't control that?
Page 2 of
It's here.
this.
No, keep going all the way to the beginning, that one. So there you can see those trees I was referring to. I know, like Steve said, you know, back. So there's evergreen, 3 of them here, and then the 2 deciduous trees. And I know they lose their leaves, but they are 30 to 40 feet tall. Right?
And those are staying.
Those are staying.
Okay.
Medium-sized trees. That's a little bit off what you're talking about the front, but I just wanted to mention that for the
Nope.
back.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and the trees in the lower left-hand corner of that photo
Right.
are gonna block the view from the residential property to the
Right.
southwest there. For the most part.
You are correct. I'd agree.
Overlap with that property.
I'd agree.
I guess if I could
Interject.
just one thing that we should keep in mind is, as we're reviewing our zoning code, as we did discuss last meeting, establishing architectural standards. So if we do want to allow pole sheds moving forward, we should make sure to take that out, because basically what we were proposing on entering would have a much higher materials requirement for new buildings, specifically in the industrial, commercial, and multifamily. So this kind of strikes, I guess, in the face with what we're proposing to do with the zoning.
Can you remind us what was in the new proposal?
That we were going to have materials such as, Bob, I don't know if you were, offhand, I think it was brick facade.
Brick, stone, wood.
Stone, glass.
So Bob Colson from Cedar Corporation. Yeah, so I think, I don't have it in front of me, but the architectural standards, it takes into account the neighborhood, first of all, that you need to be compatible with the neighborhood. And it also looks at, making sure that you break up the facade if they're really big, long lengthy facades, that you break them up with either windows or something, so it's not just one big piece, but also that there are some materials that go along with it, but rather than a prescriptive of materials, it's really compatible with trying to make it fit more with the neighborhood than just saying thou shalt do this in every situation. So I think that Matt bringing it up is, you're kind of in the middle here between what's coming and what's on your plate right now. So
I think, to your point though, if it fits in with the neighborhood, this neighborhood is gonna have now a new storage unit. Quick Trip, Scott Bodie, which is pretty, but kind of industrial looking as well. I don't know, that's,
Well, I think that's, in this case, again, you're gonna have the existing structure that's kind of front and center, and this is behind, which, similar to what we did with the new storage units, that front building facing along the street is gonna look a lot nicer, while the buildings behind are gonna be like that, right? 10.
10.
Although, again, the buildings were behind the front facing, so you couldn't see them. So this will be up. And just to go with the other buildings, Bodie Studios, Quick Trip, and all the other surrounding buildings aren't pole sheds, so it's not exactly, I guess, matching with what, at least, I guess, the front again.
if they're keeping that facade in the front, like the logs and everything else, I could see doing matching colors or something along those lines, but I don't know that they necessarily need to do the timber route, right? The logs.
Why not? That's my opinion, why not? Why not make a match it? It's called doing business. It's like, well, I don't really want to put plumbing in my building, but you have to, because that's a
We
requirement.
don't have to.
Have to what?
That's not a have-to thing.
I
Plumbing's a
come put it
have-to.
in my shed.
This is a debatable thing.
Well, no, if you want the building to look nice from the
It's a
street,
debatable thing.
it's like saying, well, yeah, we got standards, but, okay, we got wood, but go ahead and put blaze orange up there because we think blaze orange matches brown. Well, some people would say that. Why not say, let's make the front look nice? Yes, it costs them a little bit more, and I want them to be successful, but, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, let's just let them put 10 because it's going to cost them too much, is a BS reason why to let them do it. That's my opinion.
Right, and that's fine. I don't necessarily feel like it's the cost or whatever else. I mean, it's hard for me to maybe see because I'm not visual. I have to actually see it before I can just think about what it is.
I was just gonna say, personally, I would like to see an actual sketch of what this is gonna look like with
Yes.
A color rendering.
a color, thank you. That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
A color rendering of what this is gonna look like from the Campbell Street.
Because you're right, if you get me some tin that almost makes it look like it matches the front, like it's almost wood, or, the color looks good enough, I might say, yeah, but, if it's all wood, it only makes sense to do wood. It's like, I don't know.
I don't like the hypothetical and just like, well, this is maybe what we're gonna do. Like, I agree, let's see something, because for me, I have to actually see it to be like, oh, yeah, that looks way better than whatever you're doing. You know what I mean?
And technology, we probably get color renderings pretty easy to see how it matches. But to Matt's point, if we're saying we're trying to make the city look nicer,
But it could look super nice with that matching tin.
I guarantee you I can get tin and make it look like brick almost, but it's still a tin building. And two reasons you do it too. You want if you get everyone to do a little bit of brick, everyone takes a little pride, and it makes Prescott a little nicer. You drive by and say, yeah, I can tell that's tin with the brick pattern on it. It's still tin. So it's nice to try to get the city to look nicer, and that's why we're gonna have architectural design. If we're not, like Matt says, we should throw it out and say, everybody come with tin and paint it the color that looks the best to the neighborhood, and we'll accept it. That's kind of what you're saying. So either you
That's
have
a
architectural
fair
design or you don't. That's kind of how I look at it. And of course, every day I gotta tell people what they don't wanna hear. So I'm here to just say, we should do one or the other. We can't, well, what's a little bit of tin when the rest of it looks like wood? That's kind of the
so
point Matt's making.
So the nearest building to this is I don't know what's there now. Is it a dentist office? Is it a
Yep.
dentist office?
Post office.
The
Post office one side, dentist on the other, yep.
office. But then you have the daycare, which is a tin building. And then you're gonna have the storage, which are gonna be a lot of tin buildings. So the neighborhood does have some tin
Tin
buildings going
Also,
on.
it's a hardware store. It's a little fitting, industrial in that
But then you can
regard.
say go across the street, which is adjacent to them, and you got Quick Trip with the nice brick building, and then Bodie with their building, which isn't tin. So, where's the line? And and John, you have agreed with me, I'm just asking for Campbell Street side. The rest, I guess, if it's tin, it's tin. I'm not gonna get bent out of shape because it's not facing the street. That's only my 2 cents.
But I think the flip side of that is if they make that up, this one big log looking structure, is that gonna look better than tin? I'm not sure. I'm not convinced.
And that's where you
The
want
tin might look better than the log.
that's
I
where
don't
the
know.
rendering would come in.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and Jay Welter again, the three of us, I totally appreciate all that you're discussing. The three of us owners of the building live in Prescott, and we all want to see Prescott. We want to leave Prescott better than, we inherited it. And, so we've been working really hard to get Ace Hardware to Prescott. Just for your consideration, I'll tell you that kind of we're butting up on the top end of budget for it to work for Ace and us. This is the same material that the First Adventures daycare is built out of. So I just, if we have much for delays, if we have much for, if we don't get out of this tonight, the fall opening is shot. Just for your consideration.
Steve?
What are the odds of a color rendering by?
By 7 o'clock.
No, by the council meeting next week, I guess.
Well, we gonna approve it pending a rendering? Because not everybody
Well,
sitting right here is on the council.
Well, no, but the council is the final approval.
Right. You get a recommendation from planning commission.
Correct.
That's why we're here, is to send the recommendation to them and say, this is what we're thinking. So if you're thinking, we'll base it on approval of if we like the color.
Where I'm coming from there is that you could have 7 people sitting up here. 4 people might think one way looks better, the other 3 might think the other way looks better. In the same way, it might be the same way in the city council. 4 people are gonna think one way looks better and 3 other think better. This comes down to personal preference at some point.
Yeah. How about we do this? I make a motion. Dave always makes motions. To approve resolution 2623. The only stipulation I want to add to this is that tin has to match pretty much the color of the front of the building, or they can put logs that match the color of the building. Because right now I'm looking at the colors of their tin, and they probably got one that's brown enough to maybe match what the front of the building looks like. It's not my ideal, but at least would have the same color.
I'd second that motion.
And that would be one of those there in the council, maybe you have to, submit a rendition of the colors versus a picture and say, here's how close they match. Can send it to the planning commission. If we have any objections, we can send something to the council before next meeting. If not, the motion
Next
is.
meeting's next Monday.
My only comment about that would be, and I'm no architect or designer, and I don't claim to have great taste,
Yep.
but
I'm with you.
is a matching color tin against a log building gonna look better than a complementary color?
Well, and,
I don't know. I'm
Might
raising the
help it
question.
blend in.
well, yeah, what it is first of all, it's recessed back from the original structure, so as long as it hit, I'm thinking if it was right next to it, I agree with you, but if it's back, and I know where you're coming from, could they go a complementary color? But I think if you get the brown so that everything looks like could be, and your point is, I understand where you're coming from. So I just made a motion that the tin matches within reason to the front of the building, along with these other conditions of the resolution 2623.
Could we say complimentary?
Well, any brown could be complimentary.
Well, here's
You
the
made the
thing.
motion, so you'll have to amend the motion.
Yeah. We're
Just
still-
before we do that.
Yep.
Just a little more discussion.
Oh, yeah.
For them to match the color more closely to the wood, probably not gonna increase the cost, frankly. So I would think that they have all the reason in the world to make it look as best as they could if they're just gonna choose a color of tin. So I
Yeah.
assume they picked this one because it probably is gonna look the best
For the rest of the building.
with the building, but I'm just throwing it out there. If we tell them we have to match the color of the,
Well, get
Existing
close,
front.
get close, because they're not gonna match it, I guarantee you that. That stain, right now I see there's probably 2 colors of brownish orange or whatever that might look like that wood color. See, there's a red, and then to the left, to the right of that would be the 2 browns that I
What
think
if they
might
pick
match.
that red though, and then that's like kind of matching the wood, right? I mean, could they conceivably do that? I'm being serious right now.
there is a brown on the bottom right.
Because if you had my husband do this, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, this color looks great with this color," and be like, "No, that looks really stupid."
I think
so.
if
It's
you-
all subjective, you know.
I think a brown that doesn't match exactly the existing, if it's brown, I don't even know what color, I mean, if it's, what color the logs are.
Someone should go get a picture of it and bring it back on their
I mean,
phone.
that would be nice actually, to actually have a picture of the existing.
Can't. Oh, I'm sure
a
we
good
can
picture
Google.
of the existing building.
Wanna go get one quick?
Yeah, unless you wanna do Google Street View.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna do.
You get the same thing.
Get the same thing. Depends if it's a sunny day or not. Uh-oh. Let me see if Matt can get.
Damn it, I
you.
missed Churchill.
Don't swear.
Sorry. Can you do a street view because I can't find a goddamn picture. Oh, here.
I could try.
Are you guys keeping the green on the front?
He's looking at us like, what? I have green on the front of my building?
I think that those peaks are metal.
They might be.
They're kind of like sage color.
Yes, they are. They are a
See, I knew the shadows would kill us.
They are a
Sure.
very forest green tin roof, or whatever they call that.
The roof and back is the same color.
See, I knew that, I figured we'd have a bad Sunday.
Do you want me to go grab them?
No, I mean, I have a decent picture.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Send it to Matt and he'll put it on his computer and bring it up.
So it's a very like a dark stained log cabin.
Does it look like anything, are those brown on there?
No. Maybe. But then, my question too is if
But then but literally you have green, like an evergreen forest green.
front.
What is that? 8-10 feet on top of the
Match that?
I'd say match that.
match the green.
Cause that whole gable end of those two entries are green.
Yeah.
They're not logs, that whole gable triangle is green.
I'd say you have to match the green. Yeah, it is.
What if you did brown, then it would be brown, green, brown, and it'd be complementary
Yeah.
versus.
See, but see, basically the roof is green if you want to try to match the green of the roof. The gables are still the log look. Be nice if you get that, but that would be a big span for a log look.
I'm in favor of not requiring log.
I'm in favor of not requiring log. I'm in favor of it being complementary. How do you say that again?
Complimentary.
Right now, the motion doesn't
Complementary.
require log, it requires everything in this resolution, except I wanted that gable end to match the color of the front of the building. I guess there's two colors in the front of the building, it's either brown or it could be green. Now, the green is the trim, it's not the main gable look. So that's why I say, there's a gable brown and then they could trim it in green, but that's just, I'd have to change my motion. What are your thoughts, Steve? Deep thought, I can see that.
Well, I mean, I like pushing this through. I kind of feel like we're.
I don't really push it through, we're just trying to solve a problem.
Right.
Yep.
But so, a lot of this is interpretation of what is good looking. And I think tin for a hardware store won't be bad, especially since it's the back of the building. And so,
But we're talking that gable, it's gonna be above that roof
Complimentary,
line facing
yeah.
this way, you're still okay with 10?
yeah, I'm okay with that. What color it is, it could be complementary or, brown to match, but.
I think what I'm hearing is we need an amend to your,
I'm still listening to the discussion and I might amend it.
I think you've overheard it. I think we need to.
I'm trying to think what I want that to say though. So we let it to
Beat
be
the
green,
horse to death here.
we let it be green,
Complimentary.
I like complimentary.
just so you know, last week we talked about having criteria, now you're just saying we won't really have criteria. Just FYI.
No, I don't think that's
FYI.
fair because I think this is criteria. I mean, this is the building material they're using. That we've kind of okayed that, right?
It doesn't appear that Menards has anything that's even close to those green, the existing green.
That one green on the corner, don't you think?
But if you try to match it and it's visibly different, that's going to look worse, I would think, than a complementary color to it.
Well, I think then what you say, you have to outlaw tin buildings. Or,
Yes, that's what we're gonna do. So we just talked about that at one of our last meetings, that we're gonna have architectural design, so buildings aren't all pole buildings in the city of Prescott.
oh,
And so, again, you're saying, well, we'll just exempt this one, well, this one isn't a pole building on the front, and now we're gonna say, but anything else you add to it facing that street, we don't care if it be pole. Well, then you're going against what we're saying our ordinance should change to, is what Matt's trying to say. And I'm one of those, fine, there is tin on that roof now, so I'd say if you can match that green tin on the roof, and I change my motion to say that gable end better match the green on that roof line, then that's what it should be. And wherever they gotta get that green tin to match, great. Or do I say it's a brown to match as close as you can to the front of the building, so it looks like that's always been there and it matches? It's not, well, we got this, yeah, we can tell the addition there and addition there and addition there, and they're all different materials and types and colors. Then you shouldn't have architectural design, just let people do what they need to do to get what they want.
no, I don't think that should be the
No,
case.
I know, but
This is an existing building, they wanna put an addition on it.
so now it's no longer existing, there's a new building going in, and it should match the existing building. That's the point I'm making. And it's just, and I'm only asking for one side to match, the rest can be gray, I guess.
I guess my whole thing is how do you want it to match? Do you wanna say you have to have X, Y, and Z? I mean, I just am so confused as to like, one, maybe why we weren't more prepared, or, no, I don't wanna sound mean, but like why we don't have plans or something more solid for us to look at. And two, I don't know. I can't visualize it
You know,
without
the color
having,
rendering would have helped a ton.
a rendering would have helped a ton.
That just helps our staff know that next time if we can, push for a rendering. Not to pick on staff, but that's what we're asking for. It helps
Yeah.
us to make a better decision.
I did just reach out to our contractor, and he said he can get a close match to the front, if that helps the discussion.
The brown, you mean?
Yeah. I'll follow up with green.
And again, a close match, it doesn't have to match to a T, but you know what I mean, brown, it looks brown to brown. If you wanna trim it in green on the soffits, I guess.
What color will the roof be?
I don't know.
No comment.
No, I
Just kidding.
Does it matter?
Well, yeah, I think
You're
in
gonna
this
say the
instance,
rough?
it does
I'm
matter.
gonna say they're up.
Be 30 feet tall, it'd be pretty hard to see probably.
And it doesn't
Did you
face,
ask the color anybody else's room?
it doesn't face the street, I know that, so, at least Campbell.
Well, if you're driving, you're probably gonna see the
You're
roof.
gonna see the roof, but
You will.
It's gonna be the highest building there. There's no surrounding buildings that reach that same height as what this building's gonna be.
No reason it's that high is because of span, right? Truss span.
Right.
Pretty sure that's what it is.
this is the best picture to, really visualize it,
Yeah.
Let me see.
you know?
We can also stain the wood to match the metal.
Oh, I like that
You're gonna see
idea.
the roof, and, you're gonna see this, and this is green, so really what you're gonna see is the contrast off of this green to that. So what's gonna look the best and matching it to this, I'm not sure, I don't know.
See, if you made,
Be like brown.
if you made the brown, as he said, would match, you make the brown and the gable brown and then trim it with green to match the roof line now, it might blend in. That's my only thought.
Like a green roof, like make the roof green?
The soffit and how, if the roof could be green and then that brown would face the same as the rest, that's just my thought.
Maybe we should put a architectural designer on retainer for the city so that then they can just help all these new people who wanna build buildings come up with good stuff.
No, I think staff can do it. I think. So my motion is that, and he says he can match it within reason with tin, the brown. I would like to see the gable end being brown if they wanna do the soffit in a green to match the other roof line. I think that, to me, makes sense.
I'll second.
I already seconded it.
I thought we changed it.
Well, the only thing I'd change is
Green.
we could let him trim it with green, but if he says he can match a reasonable brown to brown, that was in my motion. And the only thing I could add is that, yes, they could trim it in green, so it kinda ties the two together.
We have a
Yes.
motion, a second.
Yes.
I
Go
just, contractor says he can get the green to match the
Okay,
existing.
good, so the
roof.
brown and you have a green and it would match reasonable.
Yep.
But then is the sides gonna be gray?
My motion didn't say anything about them, so.
I don't know if that looks good either.
I think we want it to look good.
Okay. You guys figure out a way to make it look really good with that that
The whole thing could be,
stipulation we just.
whole
put
thing
in
could be
place.
brown if he wants to, if it
Whole
doesn't
thing could
cost
be
him
brown.
anymore.
Whole thing could be green.
Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Alright,
Aye.
Opposed?
thank you.
Next item on the agenda is zoning code review, chapter 635, accessory structures and traffic visibility, loading, parking, and access. Take it away, Matt.
Thanks, Mayor. So before I turn it over to Bob, I just wanted to go over the proposed schedule because we've been going over this now for a while. I think since the beginning of January, we've been discussing various parts of Chapter 635. So the proposed schedule moving forward would be June 5th. Planning Commission will give a last review of all the changes that we're proposing. We go over high-end run-through of everything that we've already discussed just to make sure there's not, in terms of discussion points that we want to have. I guess it sounds like probably the architectural is one thing we'll want to make sure that we touch. Then we'll bring it to City Council on June 12th to go through with them, any feedback. And then July 3rd would be the proposal to have the public hearing for consideration. We'd be sending out letters to the property owners that would be affected by the proposed zoning ordinances changes. So that would be the actual industrial. I think what are the questions that we would have too for this meeting, since the 4th falls on a Tuesday, how many people are going to be at the July 3rd meeting? So maybe we'd have to push that back to August potentially. And then July 10th, we'd have council consideration, assuming Plan Commission approved it or.
Can we have conversation on that July 4th meeting or 3rd
Yes.
meeting now? I know I'm totally gonna be gone.
I will not be here July 3rd.
What if we did it like the third Monday of the month? If you want to move it a little sooner. There's no rush, I guess.
What, like June, the 3rd Monday of June, or
July.
July?
July 3rd, 10th, 17th.
We could do the 10th.
But it's not a big rush, I guess. What's 2 more weeks if we waited 2 more weeks? Right? So forget it. It's not like an emergency. We have to get it done, so forget it.
I
think
just
then we
feel
put-
like you're gonna miss out on a lot of people because they're
Then-
gonna be gone for the 4th.
Then you're gonna push it to the
including me and
first meeting
John.
in August. Let's do that if we can, right?
Okay.
Okay. You mean the planning commission in August?
Yeah, the public hearing for the planning commission in August.
Okay. And then it would go to council that Monday after that Plan Commission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll turn it over to Bob to discuss the couple chapters we have tonight.
Good evening again. We are getting near the end here to the finish line, and I just think that you guys have had some really good discussion, and as some of it tonight, I think will probably I'll talk with staff, and there's probably going to be some additional changes or some recommendations to your architectural standards. But we're here tonight to do a couple of the last little bit, and so the agenda lists the accessory structures first. My slideshow is set up so that we go through the parking first, if that's okay with our commission. Sure. So we've. And it really, some of this is tied directly to the project at hand. When I first started, those guys were in, and there was a lot of discussion about parking and what to do, and you know, it's too restrictive and it's not restrictive enough, and so we've been working with staff to get some stuff to the commissions for you guys to look at parking going forward. Here again, this is just my contact information. So in starting with the parking, I think, we went back and looking at, the very beginning of, and this is just a high level review. And so if there's any questions, stop me and I'll go back in time, or I'll go forward just so we can kind of keep track here. So, but I'm going to go just section by section with changes that are proposed. And so we did go back and look at your vision triangle, and it came with what is maybe a clearer definition of maybe what is a vision subdivision triangle and tied it back so that it's appropriate to all the streets within the city. And then we also went one step further and looked at driveways and making sure that there's a vision clearance at driveways as well. The loading requirements, it just kind of reorganized this piece, put it into a matrix or to a chart, just so it's easier to read. There were no changes other than just reformatting that piece. We struck some language, on line 65. And it was really intended, because later on in the ordinance we talk about, at least in the residential areas, commercial vehicles and limiting parking in commercial areas. As I read this again and thought about this, the language that's there is a lot broader than just residential. So I'm not sure that is appropriate to strike that at this time. So I'm looking at line 65, beginning on 65 is where that is where I'm looking at. And so I'm not sure what the commission thinks here. Because this just talks about, parking in general, and that you can't, you park it for a certain amount of time, it's going to be considered permanent anywhere in the city, so.
So if we take that out, then they don't get a timeline even?
So if you take it out, the piece before it says, that you don't allow, these parkings for permanent storage, but the one below it says, permanent is going to be if it's over 3 weeks, it's going to be considered permanent. So
basically, we're just saying.
If you took that out, you're saying.
No, there's no
park.
permanent storage. I think that's.
And then there's no definition, no wiggle room as to what's permanent.
Yeah.
So leave that in, or leave it the way it is, so it's coming out. We did go through and put in a table 2 with design standards that talks about angle parking and stall widths, stall lengths, and aisle widths for one-way and two-way traffic, just so that there's a standard for that. We added it, and put in some cross-referencing still later on the ordinance for cross-referencing for off-street parking in the residential zones, and so that's really what's happening there. We struck some language because it was these districts are discussed in 635, and so we took out some redundancy and tried to get everything that's going to talk with residential as part of the residential piece here. Surfacing, that's just some reformatting of that to make it easier to read and broke it into sections. There was some additions that we're putting in there, and some of it's cross-referencing back, but when you get down to line 129, all parking lots 3,000 square feet or larger shall have concrete curb and gutter installed around the perimeter of the parking lot, and that they'll be internally drained with catch basins connected to a municipal storm sewer. So that's saying once it gets to a certain size, you probably need those things in there. On line 134, we changed the naming from landscaping to parking areas because you now have a new landscaping section, and so we didn't need to be redundant there in that piece of it. And I think when we get down to the number of stalls on line number 166, and so part of this is in reaction to some of the discussion that was had, about your ordinance is too restrictive and why can't we do this? So in talking with staff, and on line 166, changes in whatever minimum parking stalls are going to be considered a conditional use. It's the same process that you'd use for a conditional use permit. So in addition to what they'd require, in Article 4 of conditional uses, it's important, at least this says that in addition to that, they need to provide you some sort of reasonable data, that's parking data from a compatible facility, or that there's been a study done that would substantiate that, yeah, we can reduce this. And I would suggest that if that happens, that you stop and take a breath and say, well, maybe that section of the code, maybe we want to amend that just because, so it doesn't happen again. And we went through and organized the parking stall requirements into categories, and there were some additional categories that were added, or uses that were added. So, just so it's ease of finding stuff. There's a residential lodging, civic and public assembly, commercial office space, and industrial. And then there's a few things that were added, daycares. Staff was talking with the fitness center that they've had some issues with fitness centers where there's like a yoga class or some other organized class. A lot of people, no parking, and so at least the ordinance now would address that going forward. There was some also
So now,
excuse me.
I'm sorry. So for the fitness center, gym, and health club, 5 parking stalls for every 1,000 square feet of floor area. Would that be put Bodie now out of compliance with that? And is that why we specifically changed it?
I think we're looking to get something that more narrows in on what a fitness center is. When Bodie was approved, we don't have a fitness center specifically, so we had to kind of look at the code that we did have and try to best fit
Where that
what we
goes.
had. So that's how we got to the.
Got it.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, it won't affect them now because they're already there.
Yes, it won't affect them.
Okay, I have a question. So when one is in a strip mall, so then how do you calculate how many parking stalls are for the fitness center, how many are for the dentist office, how many are for the vision office?
So,
How do you come up with those
typically, a
facts?
strip mall, there's going to be review just on maybe potential what could be there, and you have those parking stalls, and once it's in, it's in. So you'll have to just take a little bit of time when it comes to strip malls and say, okay, well, we did not address strip malls per se, and if you think that it would be helpful, certainly find some information about strip malls and parking. You need to find them that and then kind of scale them for this community, but they exist. I'm sure that language is out there somewhere.
Yeah, the issue with strip malls is the tenants come and go, and you don't know what it's going to be.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
You know, if you
That's
have
a
a
good
big
point.
event at your fitness center, then nobody else there is gonna have a parking spot.
Right.
I'm just curious.
It's a valid point.
So I did put a placeholder for strip malls, so I think we'll look
Okay,
at
thank you.
at this stuff. We went a little bit, in more detailed in making sure that, when you have staff, that it's for the largest, the largest number of when they're on. There wasn't anything for daycare, and I had quite a bit of discussion with staff on this. And we're not exactly sure if this is where you need to land, but right now it's saying 1 parking stall for every employee on duty during the largest shift, plus 1 stall for every 5 children in attendance when the facility is operating at maximum capacity. So they're going to come in and tell you what their maximum capacity is going to be, the number of people, and then that's going to be the number of parking stalls. If they come back and want to change and add on, well, then there's some new discussions that's going to happen. So I don't know if you have any comments or feelings about that, but this is language we found in other places, so it's not brand new.
I did have, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The one question I came to the meeting with this table was, I like that the way it's structured, it's really nice. This will be quite clear going forward. But as we learn how these numbers actually apply, is it going to be hard to change in the future?
Not any harder than any other piece of your ordinance. I mean, it's as I alluded to, at least prior to this, there's some standards that says if somebody comes and says, this is just out of whack, we can't do this and we can't make it work. And they come in and they go through the process and provide you information, and you agree that, yeah, it's out of whack. My recommendation is that you go back and amend your ordinance to do that. Now, do you need to do it the very next day? Yeah, you can work with staff to figure out when it's appropriate, but it's an amendment, to your ordinance. And amendments, you shouldn't be fearful of amendments to your ordinance, because things do change, and so no, it would not be a big deal necessarily. I mean, it's time and some staff time, but if it needs to be changed, it would be an amendment.
I'm just thinking about for future things going in. So you look at that Marathon gas station where Carboni's is now going again. well, if they decide, I mean, it's existing now, but if someone decides to do something with that and they wanna put a restaurant there or something, there's no parking there. I mean, then we're looking, are they gonna have to follow this guideline? Does that make sense?
It does.
I mean, now they wouldn't have to if the Carboni's the same.
Yep.
But like going forward, if they decide to add on or do anything different to that building, then they are going to have to comply with that, correct? Okay.
That's always the problem with changes in language in our ordinance, that going forward, unless you specifically exclude things, it's going forward, these are the rules. But then they could come in and say, well, it won't work, and this is why, and then you could review that, so.
Or even like the Legion, if they decide to change or add on or do something, then they would have to comply with this as well. I'm just asking, just so like we're planning, right?
Normally you should enforce it, yes, if you change of use, says, no, you gotta follow the updated rules.
Yep.
And obviously you can't provide the parking, then obviously it's the wrong place to put a restaurant. It's really designed for retail or something, in reality. Well, maybe they have to buy the lot next door if they want to try to put it in. There's different ways of meeting it, but yes, once you change a use, you should have to meet the current code. It's not, oh, well, we're grandfathered in. Go ahead, John, sorry.
No, it's good stuff. Just a follow-up on your question. So Carboni's, say it changes hands and becomes a whatever other kind of restaurant, are they then have to follow this new code, or is it because restaurant to restaurant?
A change in use, it would, in my opinion.
Is that considered a change of use?
Not restaurant to restaurant.
No.
Okay.
If they
So they'd
decided to be
grandfathered.
a video store or something, that's different than a restaurant
Yes.
versus an office.
So even though they're not in compliance with
Right now.
You
right
can't
now
zone
with
them out.
parking for a restaurant.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know what, there'd be considered non-conforming, and so, the use can continue, but your ordinance does talk about, if they need to grow that business, now there's some restrictions on non-conforming with growth. So as long as they can stay within what the ordinance says you can do for non-conforming, they can continue. There also is kind of an out for zoning that if something isn't specifically noted and it's similar, zoning administrator has the ability to kind of say thumbs up, thumbs down. We did there were some I don't know where I'm at on here, organized, there we go. Standards for, there's going to be some calculations, and so there wasn't anything in your ordinance that says, okay, what about a fractional parking space? So we put in something that talks about rounding up or rounding down. Off-street parking restrictions in the residential areas. I think this is probably something that was discussed by staff, and it probably just needs to really talk about this. Parking for, off-street parking, rear yard, side yard, front yard. And it was felt that the rear yard probably shouldn't be used for parking vehicles, recreation of snowmobiles and things that's fine, but just to park vehicles in the rear yard, that's not going to be allowed according to what's in the ordinance. Does require that in all cases, off-street parking, that there's a hard surface. It doesn't need to have to be paved, it could be gravelled, but it has to be of the proper size that whatever's on it fits on it, and it has to meet, whatever setbacks that are in that district. There's some vehicle limitations that are in here that so that if a car is parked where it can be seen from the right of way or from an alley, that those vehicles need to be registered or licensed, and otherwise they need to be stored indoors. And it's really for the residential district. It's really for residential vehicles, and the definition of a commercial vehicle is 26,000 pounds or greater. So that would be the restriction that you would have, is that vehicles that are listed for 26,000 pounds or less would be allowed to park in the front. Those that are greater, and this is what I spoke about as I started, those that are greater than 26,000 pounds that could be allowed to park on the street if it's allowed in that district, but there again, maybe 72 hours so that it's not there all summer, all winter. And so, and like as with most stuff in an ordinance, it'd be complaint driven. I mean, no one's going to be going marking tires, but if the neighbor says, hey, this thing has been there for a long time, staff gets it, send a letter, say, listen, all right, 72 hours, you got to at least move it, so.
I have a question about the paved or gravelled surfaces other than your driveway.
Excuse me?
So a paved surface or gravelled surface
Yes.
other than your driveway?
Yes.
Is there a, something in the ordinance of how much impermeable surface you could have on your lot?
Well, I think that you do have on your rear yard, and so those would count. I don't know if it applies to the side yard.
I think we have a total yard percentage of 70%, I believe it was.
Of hard surface.
A hard surface?
Yeah.
And typically a
impervious.
gravel surface, when it's compacted, it's impervious. I mean, people say, oh, but it's gravel. It's like, yeah, but it's
Right.
compacted. It's not impervious. It's not
Okay.
pervious anymore.
Right. Thank you.
So,
Gravel will soak up a little.
so these are all new off-street parking restriction in residential areas. Was there anything?
Anything bold and underlined is new.
So what was in the previous?
It's
or
there.
In the
I mean,
current?
if it didn't have a line through it, it's still there. So some of it may not have been there.
Line
Right.
81, 181 is the old, start of the old stuff, I think.
All parking in the rear
It's
yard.
not.
So I'm not sure where, which section you're referring to.
I guess I haven't read this line by line.
What
I guess
line are you on right now?
I'm looking at the 265, the off-street parking restrictions.
Okay.
So all this stuff will apply to everyone going forward.
Residential.
Residential.
Yes, this section is residential.
Right, so you're not grandfathered in because you already lived in Prescott. This will
Well,
apply
if
to
you
everyone.
already have,
If I got a car parked in my backyard,
I suspect that they can make an argument that it was there before. If they can prove it, I suppose, that you could leave it. But going forward, it's going to be compliant, so.
Are you thinking there might be pushback on that particular topic?
I'm not sure. I was just curious as to how that would be applied.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, unless there's a complaint.
Right, it's all based on complaint based, right?
Right.
It is complaint driven. Most of the ordinance is complaint driven, so.
Yeah, it's
I could
not-
I could see it coming up, absolutely. This new ordinance, now, your neighbor never liked that car back there, but now it's in the ordinance, now there's gonna be some complaints, potentially.
Oh, no doubt.
Probably, I mean.
I guarantee
we all-
it.
we all
My
know
job
about-
tells you, I guarantee it.
We all know about the Hatfields and McCoys, so.
It's tough too, because the city says you can only have two exterior dwellings, which are changing, and they can only be 15 feet tall. So if you got stuff, snowmobiles, four-wheelers, and cars, and
Well,
Township.
yeah, but snowmobiles and stuff, they can be there. It's parking of commercial and other vehicles that we're trying to say doesn't belong in the backyard. Recreational vehicles, they can park those, that's saying you can park those in the rear yard and in the side yard, so.
but it adds, all your items add up.
Well, yeah.
It can add up.
Not a pad,
You
not a
should be
asphalt.
encouraged to move to Oak Grove if you've got stuff. That shouldn't be our message to the public.
Well, that's reality.
No, there's room.
It's
Some
tough
people
if
don't
you-
have room, and no, they shouldn't have stuff.
It's
But-
tough if your toys are registered, and legal. It's tough to say you can't have too many,
Oh, yeah.
so.
What storage buildings you're going in?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's pretty much, in a nutshell, where we're headed with parking. And I think what the biggest takeaway, I think, that at least from the Plan Commission is that, there's some standards that says if you want to challenge our parking data or requirements, this is what you have to do. And then that brings it back to the council and gives you the option of saying yes or no, because now you have something tangible to look at, so.
I know we have had issues of commercial vehicles being parked, people driving their dump truck home from work, et cetera. And we've had a booth. We've told them that they can't do that because I'm not really sure if all of our city streets are,
Restricted.
are
Off-street parking.
big enough to handle the weight of a commercial vehicle. If it's sitting, especially if it's 95 degrees and it's sitting on our street, it's gonna sink in.
Well, and we
Yeah,
could
so
certainly
I-
restrict it,
That's why we should restrict it, parking at all on the
Residential.
cities, in a residential.
It's easy to take stuff out now. I mean, it's very easy to take it out now. I mean, it's not difficult in the future, but it will take an amendment in the going forward, so.
Currently, there is nothing in our ordinance that
Bless you.
says you can't
Thank you.
park a semi-truck on the city street.
That's a good question. I don't think so,
I'm curious.
because
I don't think so.
Because-
I don't recall
I
anything
know
that
they've
says.
been parked.
I've seen it,
And
yeah.
the neighbors did complain and they were told to move them. So the car might have parked them there.
Right now, I believe you can park on a city street, you just can't park overnight if it's longer than 22 feet, the vehicle is.
I don't know
or
that,
certain
that
amount
we
of
should,
poundage.
That's, I'm talking about overnight or parking.
And that's what he's saying right now, you
Yeah.
can't.
So
You cannot
can't.
park overnight currently.
I think we should leave it like that,
Yeah.
because I think,
Yeah, you can pull a semi and stop and unload it, but
Yeah.
it's gotta be gone, it can't stay overnight in a residential
If you're
district.
getting
Or
delivery
anywhere.
or
Yes.
whatever, that's gonna happen.
Oh, sure.
I'm just talking about
what
coming
if you're
home
just
from work
moving
and
into town
parking
and
your
you
truck.
got a
Yeah, I
semi-truck?
was thinking more like you have your semi-truck parked there for a week
Because you're
Right.
moving into
in on the
town.
residential street.
Yeah, but there again, what I'd say is if you're moving in and you have to unload your semi, you dump the trailer, you get police permission to have it there for a couple days, that's one thing. But to say I drive semi every day and I'm gonna bring it in and park it in front of my house every night, go to bed and come up the next morning, that's what we don't want to have happen.
So then if we should change that
But that
last
can change.
piece, that they could park on there, but not overnight.
I think so.
And that's what Carter says it says now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
between like 6 PM and 6 AM, you can't park.
Any commercial
think.
over so many feet
Yeah,
long.
22 feet or a certain amount of poundage, but
Okay, so
Okay,
it's
so
there.
yours has
So
a
you could
length and a weight
let Carter know.
restriction?
yeah.
That's
Okay.
happening.
I'll find
And
that,
they would
Carter, and I'll
enforce
put
it
that in
where
there
it's
so
doing
that it's
Oh,
compatible.
I don't care that much.
I've got a neighbor that does it and it's great. He's, when he did it, he was working dad and come home and, whatever. But he wouldn't park overnight. He'd just, come and go with a semi though.
Yeah, it's the overnight parking.
Yeah.
Tears up the streets after a while.
Yeah.
Of course, so does garbage trucks every week.
And again, it'll probably still happen. It'll just be a complaint.
All right?
Yeah.
Accessory structures, Carter went through this with you last time. I'm just going to go over some of the corrections. And one little thing that I do want to just kind of go over the commission with. So, for the purposes, there was discussion about what shouldn't be counted as an accessory structure, and pools and patios and those types of things. There was discussion that maybe that really shouldn't. It should still count towards the impervious surface, but not maybe counted as a structure. The language that we put in there talks about, for patios and structures without a roof or sidewalls should not count towards the accessory building. And having discussions with Carter, we're just wondering maybe it should just, if it doesn't have a roof, because gazebos sometimes have sidewalls and sometimes they don't, and so if it has a roof and it's a gazebo, I'm guessing that would be considered a structure, and so maybe it should just be that if it doesn't have a roof, then it would be exempt from the accessory structure from a limitation numbers, but it would still be needed to count towards the impervious surface. And I think that I'm also going to then go back and on the accessory structure, just change it to mirror what this section says so that it's consistent through the entire ordinance.
So what you're saying there is that and I'm specifically thinking of a gazebo, might have screen,
That's fine.
screen walls.
But no roof? As long as if it has a roof, it's a structure.
Okay, then it has a roof, it is
A
accessory
structure.
structure.
Yes. There was also discussion about, side yard or rear yard setbacks from irregular shaped buildings. So we tried, it's hard to kind of write that exactly, but it really comes from, the setback would be from whatever face is facing the rear. And so it's going to end up being an irregular shaped setback because the building is irregularly shaped. So that really is what that's trying to address. And I think those were, and we went from 2 to 3. There was the height. Did I not get that on
That was
here?
back there, yeah, I seen that.
Yeah.
Maybe put a diagram in, just kind of
Yeah, it's
explain
so-
it, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
So what you were discussing or talking about is that, so you really want it from what is considered the main floor or the ground floor. That's where your height should be measured from. And so somebody that has a walkout basement or a basement with a door, maybe not necessarily, but they're not going to get 40 feet. It's going to be 30 feet from the front of it. So that their accessory structure couldn't be then 40 feet because you measured it from the walkout basement and you got an accessory structure now. So I think I did leave a little tickler says maybe a diagram might really help here to understand that. And then there was a discussion, all detached structures, right now it says, I'm in that same paragraph a little further down, all detached structures over 150, you guys are talking about 200 square feet, have a finished fascia and soffit, but you also talked about exterior finishes shall be compatible, consistent with finishes of the principal structure. So bringing those standards, into play into the residential section as well. So if it's going to be of a certain size, you need to look at what's already there and so that it's compatible. Now, that's I don't know how to define compatible so everyone agrees, but at least there's a starting point. So.
What was the size that we had?
200 square feet. So an accessory structure, 200 square feet or greater, needs to at least consider the surroundings, in terms of finishes and be compatible.
So I'm trying to visualize this. Those, there's that place in town that sells those small outbuildings. Are those typically more or less than 200 square feet?
More. They're probably smaller. If they can be brought in on just in the back, on a small trailer, they're usually maybe 10 by 12 or something.
There's many different sizes.
There are.
Yeah. There's some that are deep, you can park your car in pretty easy.
Okay.
A 10 by 12 is 120, so I mean, like, how big are those? Those are like 10 or 12 feet wide, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not that big. I was gonna say.
They're not that big. That might not fall into
Some
that
of them
too.
are 12 by 12.
12 by
Probably
12.
150 square feet or less, I bet, most of them.
Probably most.
10 by 15, 12 by
Most of
12.
those you'd be able to get away with without
Yes.
matching.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's getting to something that's fairly substantial. At 200 square feet, at least the commission thought that was substantial enough that now you have to at least be compatible with what's
Small
around.
garage.
Yeah, that's good. And then
That's
there's some
reasonable.
latitude with the match too. It's not
Compatible.
Compatible.
The word is compatible. Now,
Yeah.
that's up for you guys to
Which is
figure out.
friendly.
So.
Not to beat a dead horse on this number of accessory structures, and I keep thinking about, and I wish I had a pool. I don't. I can't afford one. But if I did have a pool, if I had the money for a pool and a hot tub, and I have a gazebo over my hot tub, and I got a little, small little
Pool house.
That's too many.
Yep, they're going to count.
Then you better make the pool house.
Well, you'd be at 2 because your hot tub didn't count and your
Don't put
pool
If you
roofs
put
didn't
a
count.
Don't put
gazebo
roofs
over
over
it,
it.
it does.
Well, it does, but the gazebo counts, not the hot tub. But he's listing a list and
If
everything.
you put a roof over
You're
it,
at 2, so you get one more.
Yeah, one more. Yeah, that's.
And
What
so-
you gotta do
Then
is
you get a garage.
make sure that your pool pump house
Is big enough.
adjacent or part of the gazebo.
yes.
right, or
Yeah.
Pool house.
or it's connected to your lawn.
Garage.
Well, it's part of,
Right,
some
exactly.
other structure, yes.
Just make it look like one.
Make it look like
One roof
one.
line, put two underneath.
You got the mower parked.
We're not trying to figure it out.
Mower in the back, pump in the front, right?
Like Carter's on it. Don't say this, guys. I gotta enforce this stuff.
I got a quick question. That actually brings up a good point. The 200 square foot deal, if your gazebo is a 10 by 10, it's not 200 square feet, so that doesn't count?
As what?
Oh,
The
that was
200
color-
square
that
feet
was
was being
matching.
compatible
That was
in-
matching.
in-
Yeah,
in
never mind.
in
Never mind.
materials.
Yep, gotcha. Yep. But yeah, I spend a lot of time with those issues, thinking about them, because that's kind of a big deal, I think. I think half the town in the previous two auxiliary structures and your patio counts as one, The whole town's out of compliance, and that's not appropriate, you know? But it looks like we're headed in the right direction.
So no roof. It's not counted as a structure.
I like it.
Anything else, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you.
Otherwise, I think that there's some minor edits, and I'll touch base with staff here, but I think that the next time that we're here, or that I'm here, it'll be everything from 10,000 feet and just kind of walk through it, and so we'll make sure we caught everything, so.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. A pergola, is that considered a roof?
That's not really a roof. It's an open structure.
Is it a roof or a ceiling, you know, and what's a ceiling and what's a roof? And so I think that, you know, I thought about that, and so I'm not exactly sure.
It doesn't hold snow.
From a building
It wouldn't have a
inspector?
snow load on it because
That'd be my
fall through
feeling.
it, so I would
That'd be
say
my feeling is-
I wouldn't count it as a structure.
Okay, so it does,
That'd be my feeling.
I'd find mine.
We say if there's 3 or more pergolas, then it counts as a structure.
There you go. Pergola's had a little 45-degree with that piece of wood.
yeah.
They're really pretty sometimes.
Matt, do you think
They are.
that auxiliary structures is gonna need people to attend the city council meeting to make sure that goes through? Is there gonna be pushback on that since that recently changed, or do you think
Are you
that's
talking about the height?
palatable? Yeah, height and number of units?
I think Commissioner Hobel and Commissioner Doherty would probably, or Mayor Doherty would know better.
I would say the public hearing is at the planning commission. Now, if they totally disagree with the planning commission's recommendation, then you go to the council. Because the council doesn't have another public hearing, they have a meeting. That's why you have a planning commission. But if someone disagrees with the planning commission's recommendation, you go to the council in an open public forum, you can say, I disagree with that, and sit down, and you don't get to discuss it.
We're in agreement that this is a good thing to put forward to the council. When it gets to council, I'm curious if you know, it's gonna need help to get approved there, because it's kind of a little hot button topic, I think.
I think the idea is to bring it to council in June and give them all review of everything, and then we'll have some ideas of what, if there's any non-alignment between planning commission and council that we can work out.
Okay.
So you think that would happen before the public
Otherwise,
hearing?
I was gonna go
Okay.
campaign.
All right.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thanks, Bob.
Thank you
both.
so much.
Okay, next item on the agenda is, next meeting is June 5th at 6 o'clock. Is there any other business?
Okay, sorry. That's like 3 seconds. I brought this up last time and I clearly didn't do my job and contact someone to put it on the agenda, but can we put parking downtown on the agenda? Or do I have to do that separate? Like email for the next meeting?
I guess planning commission wants it, yeah, we can.
I think that we should have a healthy, fun discussion on some options for parking downtown.
What specifically are you talking about? In relation to parking, like?
Just like what,
Solving the problem.
like how we can solve the problem. If there's a problem, if we think there's a problem that needs to be solved, if there's some things we can look at on, I don't know, like if there are funds available, if there's space available, all that kind of stuff.
Some of
Because I
those
think it's
wheels are
something.
currently in motion, I think.
What was
but
that?
Some of those wheels are currently in motion, I think, with the purchase of those properties next to Freedom, and then I think.
I
heard-
don't think anybody's doing anything on that.
Well,
And that's where my concern would be is that, okay, so now we're talking about this condo thing, which I really, really like, and I think it's a good idea. But then if we're hounding them about parking and how much parking they need, I feel like Prescott maybe needs to provide a little bit more as well. And so, do we have the funds available? Are there some options for downtown? Does anybody know anything about those lots we purchased? That kind of stuff. So can that be on there, or does everyone not want to talk about it?
I think you put it on there, we can discuss that, we think there's a need for it, and we can throw out a couple ideas, but then you send it to the, is it Public Works Committee now in the council and say, you know, we'd like you to pursue that and throw something back at the planning commission for thought.
Okay.
Because the council's the one that, and staff would tell us if there's funds available and that type of thing.
Well, the
I right?
discussion has come out of Parks and Public Works already. It has been brought to the council, and we have had a workshop on parking, talking about parking. And we do have some things, some irons in the fire about parking.
So could,
you could come to a council meeting and view your opinion on that, or you could review the minutes, because we do have, things are happening, and there are ideas. However,
guess-
you gotta remember, we have a river right here, and we have a giant steep hill right here, and we have this avenue right
No, I
here
get-
for parking.
But that's what I get, but is that part, I guess my question is as the planning commission, is that part of our job is to plan that? Or is it not?
You guys are in charge of the whole planning of the entire community, so
We
if,
can, if you wanna
So-
talk about it, we can talk.
so if we could just get the highlights of what's already been talked about, like Rob says. Give us the highlights, if, you two could, Matt and Carter could give us, hey, here's what's been thrown out there by the council and or that
Yeah,
committee.
that would be great.
And then we could just talk about it the next meeting, and then we could say, yeah, we agree with you, council, please continue pursuing that, because we think it's a very important
Sure,
thing.
that's
And bring us back what you think will work, or what your
Yeah,
thoughts are.
I like that, just to get a little more information, maybe just throw some ideas out, I don't know.
That's fine.
It's a good thing. If I were here.
Any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your discussion.
Second. From this.
Good job.